Something huge is happening in the gacha community right now. It looks like the voice actor for Paimon, Corina Bottega, might be leaving Genshin Impact, and for the first time ever, there is actual unity across the gacha space. I mean, everyone from Genshin Impact players to Honkai Star Rail fans to even folks from completely different games like Wuthering Waves is celebrating. The reaction is pretty much unanimous. People are happy. And honestly, I kind of get it because I feel that way too. But there is a lot more to this than just the memes and the jokes. Paimon as a character, and especially her voice actor, brings a lot of nuance to the table. So in this video, I want to break that all down. So if you're into this kind of content, hit the like button, drop a comment, tell me what you feel about Paimon. Do you love her? Do you hate her? How do you feel about her voice actor? I want to hear it all. And of course, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Alright, let's get into it. So who exactly is Paimon? Well, if you're not familiar, Paimon is the main character of the Traveler, the protagonist in Genshin Impact, but more importantly, she is basically the voice of the Traveler. See, Genshin chose to go with a mostly silent protagonist. I mean, the Traveler technically has a voice, but for about 95% of the game, they don't say anything. And during all that time, it's Paimon who does the talking. She speaks for the Traveler, reacts for the Traveler, and in a way represents how the Traveler feels in any given situation. Now, on its own, that is not a problem. A lot of games use a silenced main character and have companions fill in the gaps. That's nothing new. But when it comes to Paimon specifically, there are a few unique issues that come with her being the voice of the Traveler. See, here's the thing. Paimon is universally hated, and I'm not exaggerating. Whether you love Genshin Impact, hate it, or feel indifferent about it, there is one thing everyone seems to agree on. They can't stand Paimon. In fact, for a lot of people, Paimon is the reason they either never touched Genshin Impact or ended up dropping the game altogether. So that begs the question, why? What is it about this character that gets under people's skin so much? Personally, I think it comes down to two main things. And for the first one, rather than explain it, I think it's better to just show you.
Time to pull out all the stops! Show everyone why you're the best! This is an adventurer we befriended in Mondstadt. Yeah, take it as a compliment. Paimon kinda expected it to be snazzier.
Yeah, there's not really much to add after that, right? You can hear it for yourself. Paimon's voice is just grating. She's meant to be a cute or quirky character, but for most people, she ends up being annoying, like really annoying. And what blows my mind is this. Of all the voices they could have chosen for the one character we hear more than anyone else in the game, they went with that voice. To this day, I still don't get it. But the second reason people dislike Paimon, this one's a little more complex. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I've said this before. Genshin Impact treats its players like children, especially when it comes to dialogue. This is a game that won't just show you something happening, it'll tell you it's happening, then have a character react to it happening, then have other characters comment on those reactions, all to drive home the same single point. Genshin doesn't give you one way to understand something, it gives you 5 all at once. And no character embodies that more than Paimon. She is the epitome of over-explaining. Instead of letting players see what's going on and interpret it themselves, Paimon jumps in to spell it all out. Every single time. She doesn't just guide you, she hands-holds you through every moment, narrating the obvious and repeating what's already been shown. Paimon is the voice that constantly reminds you that the game thinks you're not smart enough to figure things out on your own. And that's what really makes her feel like such a childish addition to the story. It's not just the voice, it's the writing, it's how the game uses her. But there is still one more thing that Paimon does that really gets under players' skin. And that brings me to the next big issue. The way Paimon constantly downplays serious or emotional situation. A perfect example for this, and honestly, probably the best example, is the story involving Razor's parents. There are just really emotional moments in the game where Razor finds a few personal items that his parents left behind. Now, on the surface, these items are just regular everyday things, but within the context of the story, they are framed as mementos, treasures even, objects that carry deep emotional value for Razor and his connection to his parents. But what does Paimon do when she sees them? She literally calls them junk.
Here, this is it, the wooden box. I haven't touched it, except for taking it out of the cabinet. When you're sure you're ready, you can open it yourself.
Yes, I am sure.
Oh, this is just a pile of junk. Paimon thought there'd at least be a letter or something.
Now, if this existed alone without context, it might sound like a small thing, maybe a throwaway line, but in that moment, especially in a game that leans so hard into its emotional storytelling, it completely undercuts the tone. And more importantly, this isn't a one-off. This kind of things happen again and again and again. Paimon has this habit of brushing over sensitive and meaningful story beats with dismissive or overly casual comments. And over time, it really builds up. It makes the emotional moments feel cheap, it pulls you out of the story, and honestly, it makes her as a character feel even more grating. So now that Paimon's voice actor, Corina Bottega, is reportedly leaving Genshin Impact, the big question is, what does that mean for Paimon as a character? Does this mean that everything magically gets better? That Paimon suddenly stops being irritating? That she becomes more relatable, more nuanced, maybe even likable? That the character goes through some sort of transformation and everything is fine now? Well, unfortunately, no. In fact, I go as far as to say that absolutely nothing changes, because no matter who steps into the role, no matter who becomes the next voice of Paimon, the core issues remain, and that's for a couple of key reasons. First of all, the problem has never really been Corina Bottega. Yes, I get it. She's been a controversial figure, especially with everything that went down during the SAG-AFTRA situation and a few other things. But when it comes to Paimon specifically, the issues people have with the character aren't actually her fault. Here's the thing. In games, especially gacha games, voice actors don't just show up and do whatever they want. Every single line, every single inflection is directed. The tone, the pitch, the delivery, all of it is shaped by the studio. And in this case, that studio is HoYoverse. So the way Paimon sounds, that high-pitched, overly cutesy, borderline annoying tone, that was not Corina's decision. That's HoYoverse. That's how they wanted Paimon to sound. So when it comes down to it, replacing the voice actor doesn't mean Paimon suddenly changes. You can already see this with other characters. Take Kinich for example. His voice actor was changed, but the character still sounds more or less the same. And this happens over and over again. Voice actors might switch out, but the direction remains consistent. Why? Because the way these characters are portrayed isn't up to the actor, it's up to the studio. And in Genshin Impact, that level of control is especially tight, which means that no matter who voices Paimon next, it's still going to be Paimon. And even if you're still holding on to a little hope, even if you want to believe that Paimon might finally change now that Corina is leaving, you've got to understand something important. Corina has been the voice of Paimon for 4 years. Whether we like it or not, that voice has become iconic. It's not just a layer of the character, it is the character. Because remember what I said earlier, Paimon is the most voiced character in all of Genshin Impact. She has the most lines, we hear her more than anyone else. So that voice, that specific voice, has become a core part of the game's identity. It's literally part of the fabric of Genshin Impact at this point. Which means realistically, when they bring in a new voice actor, they're not going to reinvent the wheel. They're not going to suddenly make Paimon sound completely different. No, they're going to look for someone who can replicate that exact voice. Someone who can sound just like Corina. Because that voice is Paimon, and every time we hear it, our brains immediately link it to the Genshin Impact experience we've known for years. The only way I can see Paimon's voice really changing, like actually changing alongside her character, is if Paimon herself gets a proper story. Now, we've talked about Paimon's story on this channel before, and honestly, I gave up on that idea a long time ago. I don't think Paimon will ever get her own story. Maybe someday, but not now, especially since Corina leaving wasn't a decision made by HoYoverse. It was more like something that happened because of outside circumstances. So if anything were to work, I think it would have to be tied to Paimon growing into something bigger, like becoming Super Paimon or something, and then maybe getting a new voice to match that change. But honestly, I don't see that happening. I don't think HoYoverse is planning on doing that at all. To me, Paimon feels like one of those deep secrets HoYoverse has been holding onto for a long time, maybe even too long, and right now, they just don't know what to do with her. I believe she was supposed to be a major figure at the start of the game. That's why she has all these unique accessories and details on her. But as the story grew and so many more secrets piled up, I think HoYoverse just kind of sidelined her, made her the mascot, the traveler's companion, and focused all their energy on the bigger mysteries. Even when we look at Nordcry, a region that is supposed to be this huge lore review, bringing out all these important factions and diving deep into their stories, we still don't get anything about Paimon. We've got the Fatui, the Knights of Favonius, and even factions we know almost nothing about, but there is no sign of Paimon being connected to any of them. To me, that just feels like another sign that Paimon is one of those secrets Genshin has pretty much left behind. Now, I could be wrong, maybe there's something waiting to be revealed about her, but honestly, I'm not losing sleep over that. So, what does Corina Bottega leaving as the voice of Paimon really mean? Well, if this were any other company, one that actually listens to its players, that value what the community wants, then yeah, I say we could have some hope. Maybe Corina leaving would be a good thing. Maybe it could be something to celebrate. But unfortunately, we're dealing with HoYoverse, a company that, even 5 years after the game launched, still won't add something as simple as a skip button. That tells you a lot about how they operate. In this company, when one Paimon leaves, another just steps in, and nothing really changes. Absolutely nothing. That's how it always been, and probably how it'll always be. So sadly, Corina Bottega leaving doesn't really change anything. But hey, what do you think? Do you believe there's still a chance something could change, that Paimon could finally evolve? If so, tell me why down in the comments. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one.